Pensar em inglês, será que eu consigo? Olha, descubra depois de assistir esse vídeo. Se você faz uma coisa que eu comento aqui, acho que você consegue sim. Eu sou Cristina Schumacher, esse é mais um vídeo da série Removendo Barreiras, um dos vídeos finais onde eu revisito os assuntos mais pesquisados, os assuntos mais visualizados e justamente pensar em inglês é um deles. Vamos descobrir o que é preciso para pensar em inglês. Thinking in English, how do I do that? It's interesting that so many people got involved with this topic of thinking in English. I believe that many of us consider that thinking in English is really the ultimate sign that one has become fluent. And this is true. But focusing on being able to think in English is like focusing on tasting a cake before baking it. In other words, thinking in another language is a consequence of everything else that we do in the language. If we are in constant contact with English, reading, listening, speaking, and writing it, then thinking in English will naturally follow. So we know how to start thinking in English, then why don't we do what is required? I think that this has a lot to do with the non-glamorous side of things. If you can speak and use the language, it is no longer a novelty in your life, so you will not be particularly enthusiastic about it. There is no glamour in it anymore, so to speak. There is perhaps little motivation to intensify your use of the language. You have to have a lot of self-discipline to teach your system, your mind, and yourself as a whole that English is necessary. And this is what I mean by non-glamorous. It is really just hard work. How many of us are into hard work that is not an external requirement? We can deliver what others ask from us, but what if it only depends on us to happen? We will think in the language when the frequency of our contact with it is so high that our brains start working differently. This is true to any code with which we are in contact. And please be reminded that a language is indeed a code. When I worked as an interpreter for a whole day or a couple of days, every thought that I had would become bilingual. I was in bed at night, terribly tired from translating, and my thoughts were relentlessly bilingual. This is a living sign that your mind becomes used to what you feed it with in terms of a framework to function in. I was all the time translating, so my mind was naturally doing it, even when no translation was needed. The answer to the need to think in English is in making English a very frequent communication tool. It has to be a tool that your mind will recognize as something that is so often in use, it has to repeat it. It has to repeat its sounds, words, and sentences. If you think of your brain as a muscle, it is easier to imagine how it gets conditioned from frequent exercise. Of course, the exercise that it gets conditioned by is the English language. There is hardly ever any glamour in hard work. But it so happens that hard work is the one thing that assures us the results we seek to achieve. Listen to English, read English, speak English, write in English. Then, provided your use of the language happens often enough, you will think in English. It is as simple as that. Se você gostou desse vídeo, você tem materiais para baixar aqui em torno dessa tela, onde você estiver assistindo. Entre no meu site, cristinaschumacher.com.br, pode rolar a tela, tem os links para as minhas redes sociais, você pode me curtir e receber mais materiais assim, assistir mais vídeos como esse. É sempre um grande prazer compartilhar os meus mais de 30 anos de experiência nessa área, como autora, como coach, como pensadora. Durmo e acordo pensando nisso. É um prazer, até o próximo vídeo e um abração.